Good morning, ladies and gents, and welcome to week 2 of our English 101 class. You made it through week 1! Hooray! Congratulations! It's so exciting. Now we get to get into the real content of the class. Week 1 is kind of familiarizing ourselves with Canvas, getting to know each other, doing the diagnostic, all that good stuff. Now we really get to rock and roll with our first project, which is going to be reading Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie. If you don't already have the book, make sure you get that. You can buy it from the bookstore at CBC. You can get it online. You can get it at a local bookstore like Adventures Underground or Barnes & Noble. You can probably also rent it from your local library, one of the Mid-Columbia library branches or the Richland Public Library. I know they all have copies. And they also have audiobook versions if it's easier for you to listen. You'll still want a physical copy so that you can do your quotes in proper MLA format and all that good stuff. But if you want to hear the story instead of read it, that's absolutely okay. And audiobooks are available at the local libraries as well. They've got a really cool app called Libby that you can download books right to your phone, which is amazing. Libraries are the best. I love them. I love them very much. So this week we are getting started. Today you're going to be working on reading from Murder on the Orient Express. If your pages are different than the ones I've got noted here, just follow the chapter notations. The pages are for the 2017 edition of Murder on the Orient Express that matches our ISBN number that was posted in the announcements. So that's what's guiding those page numbers. If you have a different edition of the book, that's absolutely fine. Awesome. All the words are the same. The spacing is just a little bit different sometimes, though. So then follow the chapter guides here. So you're going to be reading chapters 6 through 8. Then we are going to be looking at some PowerPoints, specifically a recorded lecture called Murder Not Muck Duck, and you're going to be answering some questions about Murder on the Orient Express today. Then we've got 4th of July, so happy Independence Day, everyone. And then we'll be reading more, because we got to fit a lot in. Summer quarter goes really fast. Normally we have like 11 weeks to do all of this material in a quarter. In summer, we have 7 weeks. So hold on to your socks, folks, because we are packing a lot of work into the term. Because you still have to have all the same content. We just have to condense it and do it in less time. So y'all are rock stars. Hang in there. We're going to make it happen. And then we've got some more recorded lectures on the compare and contrast style of writing as an academic genre. Then we've got a little bit of a recorded lecture on mystery tropes and how Agatha Christie was kind of the forerunner of this whole genre of writing, which is really cool. And then you're going to be reading some more Murder on the Orient Express. So it is a reading heavy week. Prepare yourselves. If reading is something that takes you a lot of time, figure out how to space this out so that by the end of the week, you're to the end of part 3 in the novel. If you're a fast reader and you want to sit down and binge this in an afternoon, absolutely fine. Go for it. These readings are suggestions of where you need to pace yourself so that you can get to the end in time. If you're listening to audiobooks, just keep trucking. Like if you have to mow the lawn, put in some earbuds and listen to the book as you're mowing and you're doing homework and chores at the same time. It's an efficient use of time. Do it. That's how I listen to a lot of my books because I have 2 small children and it's hard to find time to read. But I love audiobooks. So if you're a busy person and don't have a lot of reading time, I highly recommend that method is getting through this text. And then next week, we're going to start talking about the essay and writing the essay. So it's coming really fast. We got to have the book pretty much done by then. So read fast this week. That's going to be our takeaway. We have a ton of resources available for us in the modules tab. If you just go to our class and you click on modules, and we're all done with the diagnostic essay. Hooray! I'm excited to read those this week. It typically takes me between 7 to 10 business days to get essays commented on and turned back to you because I try and give you a lot of feedback so you can use that to make your next essay better. So it does take me a little bit of time, 7 to 10 days on average to get those back to you. If you want help with your papers as we get into Project 1, you can always take them to e-tutoring or the CBC Writing Center online or the CBC Writing Center in person on campus. All great ways to make your essay better. And if you do that, send me a copy of the feedback you receive from your responder and I will give you extra credit points. So it's a win-win. Your essay is better and you get extra credit. Yay! All right, project 1. Here's the folder that has everything you need to be successful in this project. Here is the recorded lecture for Murder Not Muck Duck you're going to be watching this week. It's accompanied by a very fun video clip from a show called Drunk History. The show airs on Comedy Central, and the premise of the show is that they find an expert in a historical content field. So in this case, they found an expert on Agatha Christie. Then they get that expert very drunk, and they make the expert tell them everything they know about this historical figure, and then they hire actors to act out that story. So it's very funny, it's very entertaining, highly recommend it, and you'll learn some cool stuff about Agatha Christie, who not only was a murder mystery writer, but herself was caught up in quite a mystery, which is very fun. Then we're going to be doing some close reading strategies. We've got recorded lectures for these. I try and keep my recorded lectures to 15 minutes or less. Normally you will not have a 2-part lecture. The first one is 15 minutes long. The second one is like 5 minutes long. So it looks like a lot of viewing, but it is not so bad. So 20 minutes in total. I think we can handle it. You guys can handle it, right? Yes. Awesome. Keep being cool. There's a murder mystery tropes recorded lecture, as well as the PowerPoint if you want to be able to go through those slides more slowly. We've got a PowerPoint on symbolism, some historical context if you're wondering what the world was like while Agatha Christie was around and writing this book. It was very different than it was today. For example, the book starts with them on a vacation in Syria, which is not a place where people like go for vacation so much anymore because of political unrest and danger and turmoil. So the historical content is actually pretty important. And you'll see that playing out as the characters start to stereotype one another, and they're like, once the murder happens, the inspector's talking, and he's like, well, this is a difficult case because if I call the police, they're going to be like, oh, obviously the Italian guy did it because Italian folks are like fiery and like to stab people, even though there's like zero evidence. So there's some really interesting historical content that leads into stereotypes like that helps us understand the play and where the characters are coming from. And this play is, of course, based on a real-life case. So if you're interested in that, check that out. The real-life case that inspired this book was the Charles Lindbergh tragedy. Charles Lindbergh was a really famous aviator, like super famous. Flew planes that nobody had flown before, did things nobody had done before. He was very famous. And he married a very wealthy, very influential, politically connected lady, and they had children. They were basically the Kardashians of their time, like front page of the news of the social stuff all the time. Like, what party are these guys hosting? What clothes are they wearing? They were very famous. And so their child, Charles Lindbergh Jr., a 2-year-old, was kidnapped, and sadly his body was later found in the woods, and nobody knows what happened, and nobody knows who did it. There were ransom notes that happened long after the child had passed away. Lots of very weird, confusing clues, and because the Lindberghs were so famous, everybody was involved. Like the CIA, the FBI, the local police, everybody. It was all the alphabet agencies. If they had a badge and a gun, they were on scene trying to figure this out. And so there was a lot of outcry. This was the front page of the news for months and months and months. And eventually they held a trial, which felt like kind of a sham trial, and convicted a guy, gave him the death penalty, and killed him. Up until the moment he died, he declared that he was innocent, and some of the stuff, like the evidence they found that said that he did it, was pretty suspect. Like, it kind of looks like they wanted to just close up the case and make it go away. One of their key pieces of evidence was that when the child was abducted, a ladder was used to climb into the second-story window. And they found things to build a ladder in this guy's house, the guy who they convicted and later killed for this. But also, the guy was like a handyman. That was his job. So his job was to build things for other people. So, of course, he's going to have tools that you could use to build a ladder, right? Like, that's not solid evidence. So a really interesting thing that did not have a good conclusion. So you could see how a murder mystery writer would be reading these stories and going, oh, this is interesting. So she made a more satisfactory conclusion to her book than the Lindberghs got in real life. So we've got all those great recorded lectures to help us understand the book and where it's coming from. We've got supporting materials here that are designed to help you understand the book even more. There's a vocabulary and French language guide. This book was written some years ago, so some of the words may feel a little out of date. And there's also French phrases in here. So if you want some help translating those or you want some help with the vocabulary, we've got a link for you here. If you're visual like me, I've got a diagram of the train car because I wanted to know where everyone was. And then we've got some great readings. Don't Read With Your Eyes is a PDF of a great chapter from a book called How to Read Literature Like a Professor. This chapter talks about how to read deeply. So this is a good close reading strategies. Is that a symbol? We're going to talk about symbolism later on this week. This is the article we're going to use to respond to that. More Than It's Going to Hurt You. This talks about violence and pain in writing and what purpose it serves to move a plot forward. And then we are going to be using, I highly recommend using this article as one of your sources in your essay for next week. I'll talk more about it next week. But this article defines revenge and defines justice in some really cool and accessible ways. And so you could use those ideas as we get into the essay where we're going to argue, was the murder motivated by revenge or was the murder motivated by justice? What was that action? How would we classify it? This article will help us classify it. And then later on this week, we've got some compare and contrast free writing. All that's for you here. Next week, we're going to get into the essay, but if you like to look ahead, I've got an outline lecture that shows you the prompt, shows you how to write an outline for it. I've got a lecture that shows you how to write a thesis for it. We're going to do all this next week, but if you're one of those folks who likes to look ahead, all of this is available for you as well. So lots of cool stuff coming our way. Make sure to check out the announcements every Monday because every Monday I will be posting this video and a little overview of what we're going to be doing in the class. So as always, if you have any questions, reach out. I'm here to help and happy reading this week.